Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayanti Nashtaprayi Shavadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashti. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 2, Prayers by the Demigods for Lord Krishna in the womb, text 31 onwards. Swayam Samuttire Sutustaram Diman Avaranamam Imad Parasohrada Bhavat Patam Horu Anavamatrate Nidhayata Sadanugruhu Bhavam. O Lord, who resemble the shining sun, you are always ready to fulfill the desire of a devotee, and therefore you are known as a desire tree, Vancha Kalpataru. When acharyas completely take shelter under your lotus feet in order to cross the fierce ocean of nations, they leave behind on earth the method by which they cross. And because you are very merciful to your other devotees, we accept this method to help them. So this statement reveals how the merciful acharyas and the merciful Supreme Personality of Godhead together help the serious devotee who wants to return home back to God. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his teachings to Rupa Goswami said, Brahmanda Brahmita Kono Bhagyavana Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. One can achieve the seed of Bhakti Lata, devotional service, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. The duty of the Guru is to find the means according to the time, the circumstance, and the candidate, by which one can be induced to render devotional service, which Krishna accepts from a candidate who wants to be successful in going home back to God. After wandering throughout the universe, a fortunate person within this material world seeks shelter of such a Guru or Acharya, who trains the devotee in the suitable ways to render service according to the circumstances, so that the Supreme Personality of Godhead will accept the service. This makes it easier for the candidate to reach the ultimate destination. The Acharya's duty, therefore, is to find the means by which devotees may render service according to references from Shastra. Rupa Goswami, for example, in order to help subsequent devotees publish such devotional books as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Thus, it is the duty of the Acharya to publish books that will help future candidates take up the method of service and become eligible to return home back to Godhead by the mercy of the Lord. In our Christian consciousness movement, the same path is being prescribed and followed. Thus, the devotees have been advised to refrain from 4 sinful activities: illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling, and to chant 16 rounds a day. These are bona fide instructions. Because in the Western countries, constant chanting is not possible, one should not artificially imitate Haridas Thakur, but should follow this method. Krishna will accept a devotee who strictly follows the regulative principles and the method prescribed in the various books and literatures published by the authorities. The Acharya gives the suitable method for crossing the ocean of nations by accepting the boat of the Lord's lotus feet. And if this method is strictly followed, the followers will ultimately reach the destination by the grace of the Lord. This method is called Acharya Sampradaya. It is therefore said, Sampradaya Vihina ye mantraste nishphalamata. The Acharya Sampradaya is strictly bona fide. Therefore, one must accept the Acharya Sampradaya, otherwise one's endeavor will be futile. Srila Narottam Das Thakur therefore sings, Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas. One must worship the lotus feet of the Acharya and live within the society of devotees. Then one's endeavor to cross over nations will surely be successful. So yesterday we studied how one who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, for him this ocean of material existence of Bhavsagar becomes as big as the water contained in the hoof print of a calf. Now, demigods are further praying, further saying that acharyas, when acharyas completely take shelter under the lotus feet, in order to cross a fierce ocean of omniscience, they leave behind on earth the method by which they cross. So taking shelter of lotus feet of Krishna, actually it means is to follow the instructions of Krishna given in the scriptures. So what the acharyas leave behind? They leave behind the scriptures, so that further more devotees can take shelter of those scriptures, those instructions, and they also get a chance to cross over the ocean of material suffering, ocean of material existence. So they leave the boat behind. And that's what demigods are saying, because you're very merciful to your other devotees, means those who are going to be in the future becoming a devotee, you accept this method to help them. And this is what Prabhupada is stressing on in his purport, that all the acharyas, look at that. Rupa Goswami, he specifically mentioned Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami gave so many books, Jiva Goswami left so many books, and Prabhupada himself left so many books for us to read, get the instructions and follow. And we can also become eligible. Simple as that, if we take shelter properly. Now next shloka is very, very important. Ye anya arvindaksha vimukta maninas tvayasta bhava davishuddha buddhaya aruya krichrena param padam tata patanti athona dhrityushma dangreya. Someone may say that aside from devotees who always seek shelter at the Lord's lotus feet, there are others who are not devotees, but who have accepted different processes for attaining salvation. What happens to them? In answer to this question, Lord Brahma and the other demigods said, O lotus-eyed Lord, although non-devotees who accept severe austerities and penances to achieve the highest position may think themselves liberated, their intelligence is impure. So, non-devotees, they perform severe austerities and penances, and they think themselves as liberated, but their intelligence is impure. They fall down from their position of imagined superiority because they have no regard for your lotus feet. So until we take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, and the only way to take shelter is by engaging in devotion service, there's no way one can cross over this ocean of material suffering. Aside from devotees, there are many others, non-devotees known as karmis, jnanis or yogis, philanthropists, altruists, politicians, impersonalists, and voidists. There are many varieties of non-devotees who have their respective ways of liberation, but simply because they do not know the shelter of the lotus feet, although they falsely think that they have been liberated and elevated to the highest position, they fall down. Why? Because they don't have any shelter. Just like if a bird is flying up and high, it's very high. But if there is no shelter, where is he going to go? He has to come down. As clearly stated by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita, Ashradadhana Purusha Dharmasya Param. Those who are not faithful on the path of devotion service cannot attain a conqueror of foes, but return to birth and death in this material world. It doesn't matter whether one is a karmi, jnani, yogi, philanthropist, politician, or whatever. If one has no love for the lotus feet of the Lord, one falls down. Simple as that. That is the verdict given by Lord Brahma in this verse. There are persons who advocate accepting any process and who say that whatever process one accepts will lead to the same goal. But that is refuted in this verse, where such persons are referred to as vimukta manina, signifying that although they think they have attained the highest perfection, in fact, they have not. In the present day, big politicians all over the world think that by scheming they can occupy the highest political post, that of president or prime minister. But we actually see that even in this life, such big prime ministers, presidents, and other politicians, because of being non-devotees, fall down. Patanti yada. So even from their material positions, they fall down. What to speak of spiritual? To become president or prime minister is not easy. One must work very hard, arduous krichare, to achieve the post. And even though one may reach his goal, at any moment one may be kicked down by material nature. In human society, there have been many instances in which great, exalted politicians have fallen from government and become lost in historical oblivion. And nobody even knows about them. The cause of this is avishuddha buddhya. Their intelligence is impure. The Shastra says, Nate vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnu. One achieves the perfection of life by becoming a devotee of Vishnu. But people do not know this. Therefore, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, klesho dittarastesha. Persons who do not ultimately accept the Supreme Personality of God and take to devotional service, but who instead are attached to impersonalism and voidism, must undergo great labor to achieve their goals. So this is the process. If one does not accept or take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord by devotional service, one has to undergo great labor, and still the results achieved are not permanent. To achieve understanding, such persons work very hard and undergo severe austerities. But their hard labor and austerities themselves are their only achievement, for they did not actually achieve the real goal of life. Dhruv Maharaj at first wanted to achieve the greatest material kingdom and greater material possessions than his father. But when he was actually favored by the Lord, who appeared before him to give him the benediction he desired, Dhruv Maharaj refused it, saying, Swamin Kritarthvasmin Varam Nayach. Now I am fully satisfied. I do not want any material benediction. This is the perfection of life. If one achieves the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet, one is fully satisfied, does not need to ask for any material benediction. Karmis, Gyanis, Yogis, they take up the path, whatever they want to, whatever they take up, and they have some desire in their mind. I want to achieve this, I want to achieve that. But their path, or as Prabhupada explained, their austerities is their only reward. They get nothing actually. But on the other hand, a devotee, when he takes up devotional service, he doesn't ask for any material condition, doesn't need any, doesn't want anything. But in the end, he achieves everything by the mercy of the Lord. At night, no one can see a lotus, for lotus blossom only during the daytime. Therefore, the word Arvindaksha is significant. One who is not captivated by the lotus eyes or transcendental form of the Supreme Lord is in darkness, exactly like one who cannot see a lotus. One who has not come to the point of seeing the lotus eyes and transcendental form of Shyam Sundar is a failure. So one who has not come to the point of seeing the lotus eyes and transcendental form of Shyam Sundar is a failure, complete failure. Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. Those who are attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in love always see the Lord's lotus eyes and Lord's lotus feet, whereas others cannot see the Lord's beauty and are therefore classified as Anadrit Yushmad Angreya, or neglectful of the Lord's personal form. Those who neglect the Lord's form are surely failures on every path in life. But if one develops even a little love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is liberated without difficulty. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead recommends in Bhagavad Gita, Man mana bhav madabhaktam. Simply think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer some slight homage unto me. Means just offer obeisances unto me. Simply by this process, one is guaranteed to return home back to Godhead and thus attain the highest perfection. So when Krishna says, Man mana bhav mad bhakta, he is telling Arjuna, and Arjuna is asking on behalf of all of us. He says, Man mana, you think it is easy to think of you? It's very difficult. I have to do so many duties. I am a king. I have to assist Maharaj Yudhishthir in ruling, and I have to take care of Praja. I have to win the war, this war, and so many wars later on. I have wives, I have children. How can I think of you? It's not easy. Okay, Krishna says, Man mana bhav mad bhakto. Become my devotee. Arjuna was like, Krishna, do you think it is easy to become a devotee, to do this arti that way and that arti this way and do so much of bhoga and this and that every day, whole day? I'm not a pujari. Cannot become a devotee. Or I don't have time to sit down and chant, which is all our excuses. Then Krishna says, Madhyaji, worship me. Again, Arjuna says, I'm not a pujari, I don't know all this mudras and tantras and mantras. I don't have time to learn everything. And Krishna says, at least Maham Namaskuru, just pay obeisances unto me. At least do that. And by doing that, you will come to me. So easy. Bhakti is so easy. But very potent, very sublime process. The Lord further affirms in Bhagavad Gita, one who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. So that's all he's asking us. Just become my devotee and you'll enter my kingdom. Because only the devotees go to his supreme abode. Tatha nate madhav tavaka kvachit brashyanti margatvai baddha sohridaha tvaya bhigupta vicharanti nirbhaya vinayakanika murthasu prabhu. O Madhav, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord of Goddess of Fortune, if devotees completely in love with you sometimes fall from the path of devotion, they do not fall down like non-devotees, for you still protect them. Because they fearlessly traverse the heads of their opponents and continue to progress in devotional service. This is another mercy of the Lord for the devotees who are making progress. Devotees purpose. Devotees generally do not fall down, but if circumstantially they do, the Lord, because of their strong attachment to him, gives them protection in all circumstances. Thus, even if devotees fall down, they are still strong enough to traverse the heads of their enemies. Of course, devotees have no enemies. But even if somebody plots something against them, they're still strong enough. We have actually seen that our Krishna consciousness movement has many opponents, such as the deprogrammers, who instituted a strong legal case against the devotees. So this deprogrammers. So what had happened in America, and this case was in 1977 only, because Prabhupada started writing this Bhagavatam 10th canto in 1977. And there was a case against Iskcon devotees, Iskcon temples in America. The devotees who had joined the movement as brahmacharis, so basically most of them, they ran away from their homes, they left their schools, colleges, their jobs, their parents, and they just joined. So the parents, they got together, they hired deprogrammers, hired a person or his company. So what they did, they would kidnap the brahmacharis and take them to their place and try to deprogram. They would say, Iskcon or Hare Krishnas have brainwashed you, programmed you, so you cannot think any other way. You cannot think straight, according to them, whatever the straight was. So they tried to deprogram you and they tried to bring them back into the normal, so-called normal society. So in that, they would tell them all lies about Iskcon and Prabhupada and try to tell them what good things they are missing by being Iskcon devotees. But the devotees were so strong in their sadhana and in their attachment for Prabhupada, for Krishna, for the process, they did not give up. So then the parents got together and they filed a legal case against Iskcon in New York. And see what Prabhupada says. We thought that this case would take a long time to settle. But because the devotees were protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we unexpectedly won the case in one day. Thus, a case that was expected to continue for years was settled in a day because of the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has promised in Bhagavad Gita, O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. So what had happened, Prabhupada, I believe, was in India at that time, and he told the devotees to tell the lawyers tell our lawyers that you go in the court and present to the judge and the jury our books. I tell them, you read these books and this is the books we follow, this is the books we preach from. You read these books and you decide. Of course, devotees are saying, Prabhupada, no, this strategy won't work and this. Prabhupada said, no, don't worry, just follow this. And this is what happened, actually. So they read the books and they said, there is nothing wrong written in the books. So how can we say they are programmed, they are brainwashed? So they just threw the case out. And it's gone on the case. In history, there are many instances of devotees like Chitraketu, Indradumna, and Maharaj Bharat who circumstantially fell down but were still protected. Maharaj Bharat, for example, because of his attachment to a deer, thought of the deer at the time of death, and therefore in his next life he became a deer. Because of protection by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, the deer remembered his relationship with the Lord and next took birth in a good Brahminical family and performed devotional service. Similarly, Chitraketu fell down and became a demon, Vritrasura, but he too was protected. So this is the promise of the Lord and wonderful path of bhakti. Lord gives full protection. Thus, even if one falls down from the path of bhakti yoga, one is ultimately saved. If a devotee is strongly situated in devotional service, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has promised to protect him. But even if a devotee circumstantially falls down, he is protected by Madhav. Madhav means the Lord of the Goddess of Fortune. The word Madhav is significant. Ma, Mother Lakshmi, the mother of all opulences, is always with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if a devotee is in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the opulences of the Lord are ready to help him. Yatra Yogeshwaro Krishna, last verse of Bhagavad Gita. This is what Sanjay is telling the Dhritarashtra, that finally what is going to happen. He said, Yatra Yogeshwaro Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanudhara, Tatra Shri Ravidyora Bhutira Dhruva Nitara Matarama. Wherever there is Krishna, wherever there is Parth, or a devotee of the Lord, That is where Shri is there, opulence, victory, everything is there. Wherever there is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and his devotee Arjun Parth, there is victory, opulence, extraordinary power and morality. The opulences of a devotee are not a result of karma kanda vichar. A devotee is always protected by all of the Supreme Lord's opulences, of which no one can deprive. Thus, a devotee cannot be defeated by any opponents. Devotee therefore should not deviate knowingly from the path of devotion. The adherent devotee is assured all protection from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is really the path of mercy, path of grace. All we have to do is just stick to this path. Do not get deviated. And this is, demigods are saying that. They are not saying worship us. Scriptures say, Vedas say, those who want to follow karma kanda, they can worship the demigods. But demigods are not saying, you should serve us, you should protect, or anybody should worship us. No, no, no. They're saying everybody should worship Madhav, Krishna, and they will get the protection, even if they fall down. So that's how powerful bhakti is. And this they're praying to the Lord when he's still in the womb. He is not even outside. And the Lord can still protect even while he's Achyuta. He doesn't fall down from his position of Supreme Personality of Godhead, or from his words that I'll always protect my devotees. So I guess we can stop here. So anybody has any questions or comments? Okay, so you all be safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Jai Shri